that was owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So anyway, we went ahead with our plans to go straight through the kind of the wetland, and over the course of time we decided we're going to investigate that a little more. So we put the project on hold, and Eric here made some contacts, pulled some chains, sent some emails, made some phone calls, and over the course of a year we managed to achieve a licensing agreement with DNR, between DNR and you all, the commissioners, to use that levee for a period of 25 years for a recreational trail. So we had to re-engineer, kind of replan this thing, so we got pushed out another year on that. Anyway, again, at no time during this whole process was there any cost to the taxpayers. Finally, this year, we finally bid this project out. And if you'll recall, back in August, we had bids that came in, all of them were north of $300,000. Well, we started out with $187,500 in our budget. Spent $37,000 on engineering, design, permitting, wetland delineation, all those kind of details that you need to have to make a project like this go. So when these bids came in high, I called DNR and I said, hey, we got a problem here. We just can't make this happen. And they insisted that before we consider changing the scope of this project, that we rebid it. I was reluctant to do that, but we did it. And sure enough, last commissioners meeting, you all opened those bids. We had one came in at $206,000. So we've already spent 37, so we only got 150 in the pot. So we're $56,000 apart now. So we got on the phone with the contractor, the low bidder, and the engineers. We had a Zoom call, had a very extensive discussion, and we identified somewhat over $40,000 worth of adjustments in the specs, parts of this job that we can self-perform as volunteers. We've identified about $45,000 worth of savings. So that brings us down into the low to the mid 160s. Still only got 150,000. So I approached the board of the Vermilion Trails Alliance, and we have $17,000 in our treasury of uncommitted funds, undesignated, and we've agreed amongst ourselves to throw another $15,000 into the pot. So now we're up to 165 with our budget, and we're down to about 165-ish with our adjustments to the contract. So I want to ask you for two things today. First thing is I would like you all to issue a notice of award conditional on obtaining funds. The only problem with that potentially would be that the other bidder would have a protest about that. I and the other bidder have had that conversation, and it's not going to be a problem. So, in conjunction with you all issuing a notice of award, we would then meet again with the contractor and the engineers and us and any of you that wants to sit in to identify very accurately those items which we can take out of that contract. We would issue a change order to reflect those savings, and when those numbers come together, we would have the contract and the change order, and we would sign them at the same time. That's my first request. Second, we would like to authorize, or for you to authorize your president to sign these two documents as soon as they are presented to him, I assume probably based on review by your attorney. And the reason for this is the contractor's ready to roll. We've got good weather right now. He would like to do it this winter. His cost estimate is predicated on doing the work this winter, when he's got manpower and equipment available. He said, if we have to wait till summer, I'm gonna be slammed, deal's off. So here we are. I mean, we've been working on this thing 4 years. We've got an opportunity to make this thing happen. And if I can, I told you I had 2 requests. I've actually got 3. The one other item would be the need for a performance bond. We would like to eliminate the performance bond if at all possible. Because when we're trying to cut things this close, the performance bond in this particular job came in at $2,880. That's almost $3,000. If we could trim that out of there, I don't know what the option would be, but we're thinking that perhaps we could do a holdback or something pending inspection, you know, hold back 10%. We're out of my league now. That will have to be between you and your attorney here, how that might work. So 2 requests. First of all, we want you to issue a notice of award. And secondly, we want you to authorize Mr. Yoakum here to sign that when those numbers come together. Any questions?
Les, if we if we give the notice to award, who's the contractor and what was the amount?
The amount would be for the 200 for his bid amount, which was.
I don't have that in front of me.
206. 206 something.
206.
206.
Thank you.
The need to sign this is going to need before January 4th, our next meeting.
I honestly think if we have a contract, I honestly think he would start day after Christmas or that month. And when you look at the weather forecast, we got a really good window going here.
He's planning on starting before January 4th.
I asked him a couple of days ago, when would you like to start? He said tomorrow. He's ready to roll. And I mean, this guy, he's for real. And I tell you, I mean, I and Tom Milligan gave him a personal tour of the site because he could not make it to our pre-bid meeting. We went out to the site with him, and he, contrary to most of the contractors that showed up out there, he said, this is no problem. He said, I have 5 track trucks. I mean, we're beating our head against the wall down at McAllister's because a track truck is $4,000 a week to rent. He's got 5 of them.
Did you look into the viability of, is it McCullough?
Yes.
Is that the name of it? Did you look into the viability, the ratings and so forth of that firm?
We did not.
They just did a job up here for Norfolk Main School. Is that, did they
I
do
think
that?
so. I think that's correct.
That's like a $780,000 sewage system I think they put in up there.
I believe you're correct.
So what's the name of the contractor?
McCullough Excavating.
They had some nice equipment there too.
Well, and if you ever go over to Indianapolis, you get just the other side of that little town of Groveland. They got a gas station there. You just get to the east of there on the north side, brand new installation.
You asked about the performance bond, but what about the payment bond? There was no requirement for a payment bond either?
Okay. I don't know. I don't know the difference. I don't know what a payment bond is.
Eric, were you involved in this?
Not personally, but I'm sure there was a payment bond required because that's your protection in case they don't pay their subs or
Any suppliers, whatever?
usually it's cheaper than the performance bond, so I'm guessing they didn't ask to waive it, but I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't know what the alternative to a performance bond is. I mean, you all have to protect yourselves. I understand that.
What is our...
And that proposal that I had about the 10% holdback, that came from me. I just made that up.
Well, that's a retainage usually after for payment. That's usually a retainage going through the process. So anyway, that's probably part of it. Do you have the contract?
We do not.
Okay, so all this has to be negotiated, yeah, or put into.
Well, and here,
contractual
I've
form?
got this was from the engineers, this is out of the engineer handbook or whatever, it's a notice of award.
Yeah.
And
we
I
still
think
have
if we
to-
did that, we would have to adjust that to reflect that on condition of obtaining funds.
If we let this for 206,000, how do we do that, John?
If you let it for 260.
You know, without having the funding necessarily available,
Well, he's asking you to award it conditional upon the
it's
funding.
going to be conditional.
Yeah,
Okay.
so your award is yes if you have funding.
Okay.
And then that's where the change order would come in.
What is our liability if he doesn't perform? What is it?
Help me out here. Eric, John?
I think.
Eric, if you
normally
would come
hold
up.
back so much in retainage, and not pay that until it passed the final inspection. And once all of the work was deemed acceptable, then you would release that. Usually it's 10%. I think that would be your protection if you don't have a performance bond. I guess
Oh, I didn't mean what our protection is. What is our liability? If he's out there and doesn't perform, what's our worst case, not necessarily worst case liability, but do we really incur a liability other than he tears up the grade?
no.
That's where I was going with this.
No, I don't see it.
If a setup was set up paid by, in increments of performance, then I think that would be an ideal way to do it.
Well,
Maybe
and-
a schedule.
To that comment, Tim, I would tell you that he has told us he could knock this thing out in 10 days to 2 weeks. So I don't know if there's gonna be
Yeah,
any.
okay.
Where I was going with this is that I don't know that we have much of a performance issue with this particular contract, other than he doesn't perform and we don't pay him, except for maybe what he's due at that point. The payment bond, since he didn't ask for it, I guess we're good with that. That's more of the liability we have where he doesn't pay his suppliers or materialmen or subcontractors for that matter, equipment. So since that's still in play, we still have a contract to negotiate, which I assume will be somewhat of a standard contract, of which we'll be holding probably a 10% retainage on each. Well, it'll probably be one draw if he's doing it in 10 days anyway.
That's what I'm thinking, one draw, and I think the contract, again, will be very straightforward, $206,000. The trick is how do we reflect the reduction in the change
just
order?
a change order.
And we do that accurately and
Is
correctly.
that separate from the contract, Les? You do that after the fact? You sign the contract and the change order would be a separate document.
But my impression was that we basically have them both in place and sign them at the same sitting.
Yeah, but you have to sign the agreement first.
Yes,
You
yeah.
can't do a change order before that sign.
Yeah.
It's a standard EJCDC agreement.
He said it is a 2-week project.
That's what he told me. It may, and see the, this has been such a challenging situation out here, but the issue that we have is we need to put in a creek crossing to access the project. Then at the end of the project, we have to take the creek crossing out. So I had a visit with the DNR people the other day about inspection. Will they be able to give us a timely inspection so that I'm not hanging this contractor up on taking a creek crossing out? Because he didn't want to come back, 3 weeks later to take the creek crossing out. He wants to take it out on the way out the door. So they said they would work with us on that, and basically kind of threw it back to the owners and the engineers to make sure that thing is according to specs.
I'll make a motion that we make a notice of award to McAuliffe Excavating for $206,000, subject to funding.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
I think I've asked my questions so far.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Thank you.
That's
Thank
approved.
you.
Now
The second request, of course, is to authorize the signature of the contract and the change order in a more or less simultaneous fashion. before your next meeting. And again,
As long as it's.
I'm looking at the weather, and I'm looking at this guy, he's ready to rock and roll. And we've got a good weather window here.
If you come back with the documentation, show us within budget of what we originally agreed to, then I don't have no problem with it.
And I would certainly have
I don't know
your
that we
attorney.
need a motion,
John,
just by agreement.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement
Yeah, we're
that we
in agreement,
allow
so.
assuming it's a standard AI,
I can circulate those
AIJC
too, if you
contract.
want me to.
I'm sorry.
I can circulate those documents if you want me to, but yeah, it's a
I'm
standard
familiar with it.
form.
If we're using the standard forms, I don't have any problem with that, with the standard engineering forms,
So
contract
we don't
forms.
have to do no,
We're in agreement.
we're all in agreement with it.
So you'll be able to sign accordingly.
So do you need a motion?
You have an agreement.
We have an agreement, we agree.
You don't have to worry about it.
You want a
we're good.
motion, you want a voice vote on it?
If you're good with it.
We're good.
It's our decision.
You all good with
He
it?
said it's okay.
We're good.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, in this, the notice of award, I assume you'll want to tinker with that language a little bit about that. That's the standard one out of the engineers, whatever.
I want to say thanks to the Vermillion Trails Association. It's a great group of people, and anytime you try to do something like this, it takes a lot of people, and there's a lot of people put in a lot of time. Zimmerman has ramrodded this, and I appreciate his effort. He's been very successful, and we got to have vision in our county, and I think that regardless of what you do, you always have those that are critical of you. But I think this is something that's a very good project. There's a lot of money out there, a lot of federal funding and money available, and there's no reason why we shouldn't get it. And I appreciate Vermillion Trail Association, what you guys are doing.
Well, and when we get that slab, that one I badgered you into pouring for us in this project, when we get that done, I want you standing there to take the torch from Jim Meese and carry it the rest of the way in.
It is a big thing to connect two counties. I mean, we got two counties here. We need to work together with our counties, and that's one of the things there that will be big.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, Britt, you got an update on the jail? Or just anything you want to say about jail?
We do that first part next month. We've already did
Okay.
November,
We're
so
doing
do
once a
December's
month.
and January.
Okay. I just wanted, it was on there, so I thought. Okay, new business, extension contractual service agreement, Becky Holbert.
So this is just an annual paperwork, just need your signature. The county council has approved our contractual services for the 3 educators. So Phil, Lori, and I are Purdue employees,
Okay.
so.
Wait a minute, we gotta put on the right hat for this
There
one.
you go, thank you. Just to warm up.
There we go.
So, I don't know how you,
So Purdue's got something to do with this? Is that why you got your hat on?
There you go. Merry Christmas, by the way.
there you go.
So you got 2 documents you need to sign.
You need a motion for this,
Mhm,
correct?
yeah,
Make
yeah.
a motion that we approve the extension contractual services agreement between Purdue University and the government of Vermillion County, Indiana by title.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I give this to you right now, or can I wait for a few minutes?
It doesn't matter, I'll be back here.
Okay,
All
I'll
right,
get it
thanks.
back to you.
She won't go home without it.
Remind me. Do what?
She needs a copy of it.
Okay. Oka Grant Comprehensive Plan, Penny?
I have the president and vice president of area plan here to present to you guys. And a couple other members, Ron Mack and Larry Langley.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Something different than
Yes, I
Okay,
think
I'm
so.
John Moore from Area Plan. This is Scott Noggle, our president. I gave you a pretty good sized packet a few weeks ago or a week or two ago for you to look through, and this is relative to that packet. The first 4 pages are the most important. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but in April of 2019, it was suggested that the county needed to redo their comprehensive plan because it was just 12 years old. And because the county didn't have the money, it was suggested that they apply for a grant to cover the cost. And economic development, when they suggested this, said that they would provide the match plus a little bit more, which would cover the administrative costs of that grant. Go
Can I
ahead.
ask you a
sir.
question? Okay, go ahead. I found the answer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, the county was notified in February of 2020 that they had been awarded the grant. And it said in the letter that the entire $50,000 was supposed to be used for funding. When the county applied for the grant, they had to have already procured a planning engineer, which Hannah Wagon Klein was the only applicant that responded to the request, so they were awarded the contract. They do have 8 comprehensive plans already in place throughout the state, and they're working on ours and another one as we speak. So I would assume, based on that they're qualified. The problem being that early in 2020, like about the tail end of February, first part of March, the COVID pandemic hit, and it put the quietus to a lot of public meetings, kind of messed things up as far as being able to do some of the public necessary things that were required or are required and should be considered when you're doing something like this. So, long story short, there were extensions that were applied for to extend the amount of time. The grant has to be closed out by April of 2022. And the reason that closeout date was suggested was when the grant was awarded, they allocate extra time in case of an emergency or in case an extension is required. So when we got our first draft, it had already been submitted to Okra, and the first draw on the $50,000 was granted. So $30,000 of that 50 has been paid out. We got the draft. We were upset with some of the stuff that was in it because we didn't feel like it was actually true to form. It didn't accurately represent some things in the county. We gave the HWC a list of what corrections, things that we saw that were obviously wrong, and some suggestions. But about that time, HB 1381 got introduced, and we had to start scrambling to get a wind ordinance in effect before the June 1st deadline so that you guys would be able to have a say in alternative energy. So, long story short, during the time that we got the first thing to this time now, we have about a 5.3% response rate from the population as far as the surveys that were sent out. We do have a revised copy that most of the errors that were noted back in January have been corrected. There's still a few things. But back in October early, the grant administrator appeared in front of you and reminded you that you needed to shake a stick on this or you were going to lose the grant money and forfeit. And we on the APC weren't really aware of why it was so necessary to hurry this along. So we obtained a copy of the paperwork through the public records request channels. And it turns out that Okra and the community block grant development people have more stringent rules than what the state actually does as far as the composition of the plan. And there are deadlines in there that if you don't meet, you forfeit the grant, which the purpose for applying for the grant was so we would be eligible for grants in future as far as USDA, Okra, etc., etc. So today, the reason we are here is we need for you to tell us, do we go ahead and take what HWC has done, refine it, and follow the schedule that I included on page 4 so that this can be submitted in a timely fashion? And the only reason that the grant might be rejected would be we didn't do it the way they wanted to, or do we stop where we are, regroup, say to heck with the grant, and redo the thing? I'm going to point out one thing that is obvious to me, and I'm sure Mr. Spur might have an opinion on it. We passed those alternative energy ordinance amendments without anything in the current comprehensive plan talking about how the county would handle alternative energy. The wind energy amendment pretty much puts a quietus to wind farms happening in the county because of setback requirements and all that kind of stuff. But it is noted that in the state of Indiana, if your comprehensive plan does not reflect what you try to put into an ordinance, then the courts have said the ordinances are invalid and it could be overruled. So we have a bit of a predicament if we want to make sure that you guys are the ones that make the decisions on things happening. So that's the question. Do we take what we've got, polish it, make it where they are fairly certain that Okra will accept it, and then once it's all been closed out, decide to get back together and modify it, amend it, whatever? Or do
That's
we...
possible.
Yes, sir. The only problem is with that is there are time limits involved. So once you start the process, it's not something that you can drag out for several months. You've got to make some decisions really quick, and I'm sure Mr. Spur knows better than I do what those time limits.
We wouldn't be able to amend it till after the April closeout date. So once it's sent in and Okra approves it, we would have to wait until after April before we could do any amendments.
Well, if we would happen to forego it and say the heck with it, we not only lose the 30,000, we also get like a black eye for future grants. Is that?
Well, you pay back 30,000.
Well, I mean, you 30,000, yeah, you pay that back, plus you're kind of.
And then you've still got to worry about HWC's time over and above that 30,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, you pay it back, and then you worry about the black eye that you get from Okra, you know, for defaulting.
Yeah, but
And then you've still got a 12-year-old comprehensive plan
Still needs
that
done.
cuts you out of the grant process because it's older than 7 years.
Well, my opinion would be if the APC could do it, would be to meet the deadline in April if you could, and then make it amendable and workable after that. I understand you guys will probably have to have several meetings between then, but that would be my opinion. I don't know what the other two commissioners are. I wouldn't want to see it foregone by any means.
I talked with HWC, I don't know, last few days, and they've laid out a schedule in which we can meet the Okra deadlines.
Yeah, I included that on that
Is it in
thing
there?
I just gave you. It's on page 4.
I believe that's the course I'd like to see us go, is maintain that schedule. You are, I believe, correct as far as some additions that need to be added to that have not been addressed in the present plan, comprehensive plan. This is a living document anyway. As far as, I don't think we have to worry about amendments yet until we get a base plan in place. With that being said, though, is that after this is done, this is only like a fourth of what we need as far as a comprehensive plan, just to even meet Okra. This needs to be carried forward, and we got another probably 50 grand to have to be spent on the comprehensive plan and the studies is going forward after April even. So we need to be looking also as to how that might get funded as well. This is a base, and I don't consider it any more than that. I think that's my wishes, is that it go forward according to the timetables, that we add a few of the amendments now as far as being able to make our current ordinances, or current ordinances valid, or I don't know if you can say valid, but in tune with the comprehensive plan anyway, and meet that criteria. And then after April, then, or even before that, if we're ready, you can start entering into discussions on how we're going to make this a better plan, a more regional plan, or area plan, if you want to call it. When I say regional, I mean regional inside Vermilion County, not regional as far as multi-counties, but to make it a comprehensive plan that starts identifying our enterprise zones or industrial zones and how we want to see development in the county, if any development for that matter, how that will come into play. None of that's in, this is only a basic structure to that. It doesn't drill down to what monies are involved and what specific plans are required, or not required, but needed in order to be able to make this plan work accordingly for zoning, for area investments that we're going to make in water, sewer, infrastructure, broadband, whatever it might be. So that's that's what I like to see us do, is continue down the path, meet the schedules that HWC has laid out. Assume that in here, same as what I've talked with them about. It's only an assumption though. Get in front of, you still have to make a recommendation to the commissioners as to an approval or no approval of that plan. Once we get that, then I think hopefully we can have that in advance so that we have time to read it before the meeting, before a meeting of it. If we have to have a special meeting, so be it. Just because we do it doesn't mean Okra is going to approve it, so there needs to be allotment of time for that as well, to make sure that we address any questions that they may have going before the deadlines actually hit.
In our last meeting, Mr. Smith, not Eric, but Jonathan, indicated that he would, once we got this to where it was ready to be sent to Okra, he would try to get them to expedite their review so that we would have time to correct what they deemed needed to be done or didn't need to be done. So they're cooperating as best they can, and so if that's the route we're going to take, why, so be it.
Like I say, this is a very basic document I consider at this point as far as our area plan, and area planning has a lot more work to do on it, or can bring in a contractor to do, or an engineer to do this, or area planner to bring this up to even a greater degree of certainty as far as how the county is going to proceed in the future.
Does HWC have all the documentation that will need to go in with the final submission?
Yeah. Other than additional input from you guys as we move toward the
Minutes for meetings, town halls?
Yeah.
You have all that?
From my understanding, they have everything that they need. As long as we progress according to schedule, we should be able to meet the requirements of Okra so far. That's my understanding anyway.
Thing that, like I told you earlier, is you guys have got a couple of things that you've initiated as far as the deal with Thrive for a bridge and culvert inventory, and the $700,000 that you pledged for joint. And I think that needs to be addressed in there, because then they see that we are actually working on solutions.
Well, that's what I meant by amendments to the
Okay.
plan, is bring those things into play if you have time. This is a living document. We're going to be doing things between now and April too, that
This is
hopefully
true.
we will be anyway. That'll be changing, so. Again, we're going to be as soon as April hits, or as soon as you're at a point that you have a reprieve from the base plan, then I'd like for you guys to step into this area planning, bring this down into specific areas inside the county. So that's to be the next step, and we need to make sure we have the funding available for that too. So
If Okra doesn't approve it on time and we don't meet the deadlines, where does that leave the county?
No, I think that's up to well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but that's up to Okra whether they'll give us
I mean,
additional
we'd
time
have
or
to
not.
refund the grant money?
Well, that's what it sounds like, yeah. That's out of our control as long as
Right.
we act prudently and accordingly, we should be all right. If they reject our plan, then, we'll have to see what that brings us at that point, but I'm hoping that we don't go that route. So.
That would be the worst alternative.
Well, I've been kind of assured by HWC that all the words and everything are in place, minus a few amendments that need to be, maybe 3 or 4 areas that need to be additionally addressed, but that shouldn't take that long to do. We already know what they are, so it's just a matter of introducing, that language into the document.
And Jonathan indicated at our last meeting that it wouldn't be that hard to introduce those things. He was aware of some of them, but so.
Yeah, you're not guessing at it, it's
No,
already
he-
an ordinance.
I mean, I think he's on top, or close to being on top of it.
I think we're in good shape, not that we could be in better shape, sure, but I think we're going to be able to make a schedule unless the other commissioners want to do something different. I stand by what I think I initially said, where the direction we need to take.
Yep.
Can we do this by agreement, or do we need?
There's no agreement we need. They've introduced something and we've given them direction. I don't
Okay,
think there's
that's
any,
fine.
well, I guess you can, unless you're in contrary, yeah, we're in agreement.
We're in agreement with it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much for your work on the board.
Thank you. It has been a process.
Resolution 2021-27. Brett, you want to cover that
Where are you at?
regarding Winter Market Street?
I can read it if you want me to, Britton. It's clear at the bottom here. It's the bank one, for the resolution for the bank.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and read it, that's fine.
Resolution number 2021-27, Vermillion County Board of Commissioners, a resolution regarding 100 Market Street. Whereas it has come to the attention of the Board of Commissioners of Vermillion County that property located at 100 Market Street in Newport, formerly the location of First Financial Bank, may be available for purchase, and there exists a need for additional space for county office holders and employees to conduct the business of the county. That the lot in the building located at 100 Market Street in Newport, Indiana, formerly the site of First Financial Bank, may be available for purchase. 2, that there exists a need for the additional space for offices, storage, and parking for the county office holders and county employees to conduct the business of the county. 3, that under Indiana Code 36-2-2-23, a Board of Commissioners may acquire real estate subject to an ordinance by the county fiscal body fixing the terms and conditions of the transaction. 4, that the Board of Commissioners of Vermillion County, Indiana hereby resolve to investigate the potential purchase of the lot and building at 100 Market Street, Newport, Indiana, and to determine under what terms and conditions this might be possible. Passed and adopted this 21st day of December 2021, if the Commissioners wish to pass this today. And if we do, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-27 by title.
I'll second your motion.
Discussion.
We have a number of things, including the Public Defender's Office that needs space, and which we're looking at, and this gives us that alternative. It's basically a resolution of intent to investigate, it's not actually to purchase. That property across the street here is supposed to become an appraisal. They were waiting for appraisals, and by all rights, they should have those in place, I think, by now, but anyway, by the end of this month, they're supposed to have their appraisals, and then what they're going to do with the property, they're supposed to know that by the end of the month. We are in contact with them. They do not have a price. They don't know whether it's $1 or anything above that. There's no agreements with it. They do have the intent to sell. They have gone as far as going to the Federal Reserve and closing that branch and gone through that process. So the chances of it being changed is next to nil. I guess possible, but not practical. They've gone through all the hoops. So there's nothing that they're going to do to keep that branch, or nothing reasonable that they're going to do at this point to keep that branch open. And they indicated that they don't have any reason to keep the property for that matter. So.
Okay.
Call for the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, yearly contracts.
Is Thrive one of the contracts? No, so Thrive, that's just items. IntelliLeap, is that one?
I thought we already authorized the funding for Thrive. Did we not do that? Oh. We've already authorized it. It's just a matter of the president signing it then. That was a month ago or more.
We did approve that, didn't we, here about?
Yeah, with John Ford, when he made the presentation back when.
I think this is requesting $14,000 for grant match funding for Vermillion County in 2020.
That's our match to Thrive to continue our services with them.
Correct.
That we already approved that some time ago.
Okay, yeah, that's,
I don't
It's
think it
just a
is.
matter of you signing, or
Okay.
if there's documents that you signed, and the president will sign those, but we've already approved that some time ago.
That's fine.
all right. The next one would be IntelliLeap for the website maintenance for 2022. And
You had a
that's-
comment on that, Brenda?
These were all in the budget hearings in September, and they've all been financially approved through the
Okay.
council.
So we had 3 under 2 of them.
Two of them, so IntelliLeap's the first one, because the other one you're gonna sign, the Thrive. If there's no objections, I'll make a motion to approve the IntelliLeap website system maintenance for 2022 for a total of $2,500.
I'll second your motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then EAS is next.
I've not had the opportunity, except to brief it, not to read it for content, though.
Yeah. Brenda, where's the amount of that on here for EAS? On the back?
It's $130.
$132,600.
How much difference was that from the previous year, did you know?
We've never really had a agreement or contract. It's been more of a hourly.
Like an on-call.
Is this contract still the same thing, though, basically? We're buying down hours,
Basically.
minus there's a certain maintenance that they do perform that's in a base.
And you said so went through the budget hearing.
Yes,
They
Okay.
already approved it.
and it is a lesser dollar amount per hour than last year.
Okay.
They also sent us an email, if we don't approve it, then by 2022, it may go up.
Yeah.
Price may go up.
I don't quite appreciate that, but anyway.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve EAS Technology Consultants Agreement for $132,600 for the year of 2022.
I second it. Discussion?
I've been a little bit concerned about our IT and how we go about this process all the way from some time ago. I proposed something way too late, though, for the budget hearings and so forth, but I was hoping to enter into discussion on how we would go about doing that. We don't really have an IT person on staff or in the county itself.
Agree.
EAS has been kind of serving that. Sheriff Phillips had been doing that basically for years. With him having a full-time job already, it's not really practical for him to do that, to keep up with these things. And appreciate his help that he has provided. If we sign this contract, it will be good for a year, is it? And is there any type of clause in it that gives us the opportunity to, like 30-day notice to step out of it? Or for them to give us 30-day notice for that matter? Or some type of notice? I'm not sure this is really a contract. It appears to be more like
As needed.
a service. And, I can't really discuss this. I haven't read it enough myself.
Does it have to be done today, or would it be best if we put that to the next meeting?
Well,
They just said the cost could potentially go up.
Cost of, yeah. They're honoring all the 2020 21 proposals that they sent out up into.
I think they've done a pretty good job. I'm not, that's no reflection on EAS by any means. I'm just saying I haven't read the contract. I don't like the way that we go about our business of doing our IT, if you will. Right
It'd be
now-
nice to have someone in-house, really.
But we're not there
Yeah, not
yet.
there.
We'll move toward that. That's why I'm wondering if by first quarter, second quarter, whatever, if we do come up with that, I'm wondering if this is still a good thing to do. If we get an IT person, it doesn't eliminate this type of
Yeah.
support. It doesn't eliminate that by any means. Is anybody from EAS here?
It does have a 30-day notice in there.
It does have? Okay. Good. I can't comment too much. I'm not read it enough. I'm sorry.
You got any comment, RJ?
No, I made the motion, I think you seconded, so if there's no other discussion,
Okay.
I don't have any.
I think it's something to work on for next year.
Yeah, definitely, I think having an IT person in-house
Yeah, I
would be
think we're all
something we could
in
look
favor
forward
of
to.
investigating it further. But, call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Is the next one Baker Tilly? Is that? Brenda,
That's the auditor, that is.
is this for the ARPA money or
We
no?
approved the ARPA one, this is just,
This is the second agreement
this
with
is the
Baker
second
Tilly.
agreement with Baker Tilly.
So this is, this is to assist the auditor's office?
Correct.
In closing out the year. I have no objection to this contract. They did provide the information I asked them for.
So is this gonna be not to exceed 17,000?
Correct.
And then the Gateway annual report, that's a flat 7,500 a year?
They'll need, the auditor should need help for that, I would think, to completing that. I would recommend which resolution is it, or it's not a resolution? What's the number on this one? Or what's the contract name?
Not to exceed 17,000.
On the back page.
I must have passed it up here.
So will this take, so has Baker Tilly ever done this for the county before, or no?
I don't think it's been a formal contract. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
been-
They kind of done, okay.
when we need them.
Okay.
If you care to make a motion to whatever the title is to that, I'm willing to.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it, I just would like to, I guess I kind of want to see what we spent with them last year, or, this year in 2021, because we're looking at 75, I mean, do you think you'll use any of that 7,500 for the Gateway, or no idea?
I'm hoping not to, it's more of an insurance policy.
In case you need to.
It's on an hourly basis, not
Yeah.
to exceed the amounts shown
Yeah,
without prior approval.
yeah. Well, will they honor these if this waits till January, or is this kind of like the last one where it needs to be done?
No.
Oh, here it is.
My 2 cents, I'd like to wait till January on it just to review what we've spent with them to see if that not to exceed could be lowered at all. Like the
Probably, honestly, you probably have spent less because it's new and new.
Mhm.
Probably gonna spend more.
Yeah. I just like to review that. I mean, that's up to you guys if you want to, but I would like to push it till next meeting if that's okay.
Would they not want to start, do you not start on this
I actually-
before the end of the year?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Or we don't have another meeting till after this, so they'll be either not working on it or working at risk.
Was the first meeting the 4th?
And it isn't the capital.
They'll start putting it together, I would think, from here until the end of the year. Could start, or the auditor will start that process.
You feel comfortable with this?
Yes, I have.
I say we move on, but it's,
If you guys want to, that's fine.
I'll make a motion that we approve the engagement letter from Baker Tilly dated May 25, 21, with the assistance to the auditor, including the Gateway annual reporting.
I'll second that. Discussion?
I think I've already said some of my discussion. I just wanted to review some of the numbers, so that's
I think
fine.
you can get it to
Yeah,
her anyway, right?
that's fine, yeah.
That's a good point. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye. Only because I haven't reviewed some of that
That's
stuff. I'm
fine.
not
That's fine.
against it, but thank you.
Nothing wrong with that. See what that's like.
And there's Melissa Weibel
Okay,
next.
Melissa Weibel, Community Crossing and grant. The total on that is $1,000 a month, for a total of $12,000. And you're also eligible for other grants, right? Yeah, sure.
Yes, Melissa Weibel, for contract grant work. The proposal I submitted is the same as last year for the Community Crossings grant, but that I would also be available for any other grant work that you have on a by job basis.
Within that budget amount.
Within that amount, up to a certain number of hours. After that, we'd have to negotiate.
Could those hours be carried over from one month to the other? If you had more one month, then you'd have then very much that
Yes,
next month.
for instance, January and December are usually very intensive months for hours. February is very usually a light month for hours. So if there are no hours needed of me in, say, February, those hours would carry over to the next month.
Okay.
And it would just be straight compensation. It's as a contract employee.
I want to say one thing, so some of you might not know, but the biggest grant, our biggest success in the county as far as grants has been this community crossing grant, and it's been a winner. I mean, it's been a humongous winner. First year we started out, we got $1 million, half of it was funded by the county. Well, the next year the state changed the requirement to 25% match for counties under 50,000, and we've been really successful, and Melissa Weibel has been a tremendous asset in this, working for peanuts. First time she wrote the $1 million grant, I still remember that, but she didn't get nothing from it. We all pulled together and did all of our measuring and put it together, and it was fun doing it. It was rough. And I remember that someone one day asked me, said, did she ever get paid? And we said, no. And this person went and bought her a new computer, and that was her pay for a $1 million grant. So she's been a tremendous asset, and she does very good work, and I would like to...
And if I may add a comment about that, the reason for the comment about the new computer was I kept moaning about my computer kept crashing, and that it would have taken half the time to finish the grant if my computer had behaved itself. So the person heard about that and got the grant. I had agreed to do the grant as assistant to Mr. Yoakum because they were in a bind, last minute, needed it done, and it was just as a service for the community.
And over the past, first we were chasing $1 million grants, and then the last 2 years we went back to the council for $333,000 to be funded every year because we found out the state would give us up to $1 million. And so now we've been going after $1.33 million a year, and this last year we was about 1.2, was it, Brett?
Just a little bit over 1.2.
And that's only, what, 25% match from the county. So it's a tremendous program, and Melissa's been very instrumental in helping us do that.
Then the one other thing I wanted to point out, that means I will be available at your discretion for grants that come up. For example, the recycling type grants that came up that were mid-year grants, I would be available at your discretion for those grants also.
Great. I concur with what Tim said. I think Melissa's been an asset in helping us get a lot of grant money for our roads. I would move to make a motion to approve Melissa Weibel's proposal for employment for grant writing with the Vermillion County Commissioners, as written.
Second your motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner meeting schedule, holiday schedule.
had mentioned, if we're on the holiday schedule, I mentioned some time ago about, we show Little Italy on here and the hill climb, accepting out a department. Taking Little Italy first, is there anybody here from the health department? No. Little Italy, how does it affect the health, where the health department's located? Why would they close for that day? Nothing goes past their office, doesn't? Or why are we closing the health department on that day?
I have no idea.
For days? It's a day.
One day.
Seemed like they'd be more busy then during with health issues and the vendors and stuff.
I don't think parades or anything else go near that location. I guess my question is, why are we closing the health department on that day? You know, do you have information?
It might be for parking purposes, because all the stuff starts right there, right after you cross the river bridge down on Water Street. And I do know when it is heavily attended, the parking is, I mean, it's terrible. And so it might just be for that, but I don't know.
I don't have the answer to that. I'd like to know the answer.
I'm not sure, if they're going to close because of something, I'm not sure it needs to be on a holiday schedule. That holiday schedules have certain meaning as far as payment goes and things. And I'm not, if they need to close the office, if it's a holiday and they're hourly employees, then I guess they get paid their hourly wages. If they're all salary, I'm not sure why we would be closing it. Plus, they're supposed, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing to do with the health department. But I would like to reserve that and then add it back in if for some reason there is a more reason, and maybe parking, I don't know.
Well, the hill climb would be the same way as parking.
Well, hill climb, I think that's a courthouse issue, that
Yeah.
being able to actually use the courthouse.
Function.
I think that's more of an issue there. I don't know that the health department has that same.
So would you like to?
Need to get a statement from them, something.
And I don't know, I guess, is
Well,
that
I
really a
guess that
holiday?
is-
Is that truly a holiday, or should it just be a day that we close the courthouse and it's up to the individual office holders where they're gonna have their offices? If the courthouse is closed, I guess it doesn't matter.
Let's get some more information from them.
So
The
do you-
holiday schedule does come into play on New Year's Day, though, so if we don't approve it, then we don't have a New Year's Day.
So do we want to approve it pending?
Well, can we not add this back in if we find that it is a relevant holiday, if you want to call it that? Or that's what it shows
No.
here, is a
New
holiday?
Year's Day was actually approved on last year's. I put it on this year's as well, but it was on the end of,
I don't know if that is valid for this, but technically.
I don't know how that works.
So which ones do you want to reserve? Little Italy?
Well, yes, a Little Italy. I can see the hill climb where it's not practical to access the courthouse at that time.
It says it replaces hill climb.
Because the health department's open hill climb.
What?
If the health department is open on hill
Yeah.
climb.
Well,
And
that's
then,
why
and then the hill climb's open during.
I guess
okay,
that was my note on hill climb.
Yeah,
I guess I should have read my note.
Yeah.
The other offices, you still got Purdue Extension, you got the EOC, you've got Health Department. Those are not affected by effectively, they're not affected by the courthouse being closed. Yeah, I think that there's a difference between having a holiday and it being closed, courthouse being closed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that affects employees that are hourly employees that come to the courthouse.
Yeah,
And I don't know that we can actually give a holiday to certain employees and not give them to other employees for that also. How's that work, John?
Don't know. I'll have to do some research on that. I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, can we?
We'll just leave it like it is.
Yeah, can we go ahead and prove it, and then pending anybody, in January, February comes back with some research, we could alternate it, I guess. But
Do we have that flexibility, John?
yes.
We need to
That's
move
just
on.
fine with me.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 holiday schedule as presented to the commissioners.
I'll second your motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you vote, Rick?
I voted aye, yes.
All opposed? And
And then we need to do the commissioners meeting schedule.
we're still in the same two.
It's just continuing on.
Continuing like we are.
We're still in the same staggered every 2 weeks.
I was gonna make a mention before we approve this one, because I think a couple times a year we have a possibility of 3 meetings a month. Is there any objection to just having 2 and cut out that third one? And maybe do, because it usually falls, what, the second?
March, it'll be March, and it's August next year, you'll have 3.
I agree with you.
Like saying, like, whatever schedule works would be like how's it listed, the first Tuesday and then the third Tuesday? Is that how it is right now on the schedule, first and third?
It's every 2 weeks is the way it goes now.
I'd rather leave it
Pardon?
like it is.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I don't think it would affect, I mean, I still think you can make every meeting doing that. We just cut out those extra 2 meetings.
It'll be the first 2 meetings of the month.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
It's up to you guys.
How would you approve payroll?
Well, we actually passed an ordinance to do a payroll where it can be approved, however you want to say that.
Yeah, that's already taken care of.
Yeah. Well, if it's all right with you, I would like to.
As long as we don't change the times of the rest of them,
No, I think the
It
times.
just eliminates that third meeting.
Yeah.
If there's a third meeting in the month, the last meeting drops off, basically.
Yeah. So it would be the first Tuesday and the third. Is that right?
Well, I don't know if it's always that or not. It's every 2 weeks. I don't think it necessarily lines up with that.
No, it would be, I would change March 29th and August 30th.
Okay. Well, however we need to state
I
it
would
to cut those.
I would just say if we have a third meeting in the month, the last meeting drops off.
Yeah. Let's do. Okay.
But all the
So
rest
you
of them
mean-
that stays.
she can change the
dates and
schedule.
times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exact times.
It'll stay the same. 8:15 and 6:30.
Can I ask you to clarify one thing or make one notation?
Come up here when you speak. Just order.
John Moore, and this is as a representative of Clinton City Council. Your third Tuesday meeting, we meet at 6:30 in Clinton, Board of Works meets and then City Council does. So I would hope that you would have your evening meetings on the first Tuesday and your morning meetings on the third Tuesday, so that we, if we want to, we can attend and we can have press coverage at both meetings,
I don't know if it works out that way or not.
Well, right
because
now
of-
it's going to, because your next meeting in January will be an evening meeting. And then if you go the third Tuesday in January, if you alternate like you have been, it'll be a morning
Yeah, we're
meeting.
not planning on changing anything.
Yeah,
I
we're just
don't know.
dropping
The-
off.
The point where it changes is when you have that 5th Tuesday that
Yeah.
generates the third meeting.
We're just
That
talking
shifts
about.
the entire schedule.
Yeah, we're talking about
for the
just
next
dropping
few
off
months.
those extra ones.
Not changing the schedule though.
So the third Tuesday meeting will be a morning meeting.
Not always.
No,
It just depends.
Yeah, I
not
don't.
always.
We're basing everything on a 2-week schedule.
Well, yeah, but if you base it on a 2-week schedule, but you're only gonna meet the first and third Tuesday, then.
It depends on how
It's not the first and
the
third
day is.
Tuesday. It's we meet every 2 weeks. It's just if there's a third meeting in a month, we're dropping off that last meeting. But continues the same cycle.
Okay, so we're still gonna
But
have
they'll still
a,
have the shifts.
We're not changing anything on the schedule except dropping 2 meetings out of the year.
well, that does make it inconvenient for us having our meetings scheduled every third Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, I think between economic development and town boards, I think everyone's got. They always pick a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Monday. No one ever meets on a Friday or a
But it
Wednesday.
doesn't change our schedule.
No.
5 meetings
It doesn't
It would
matter.
only
It's
be
just we
5
don't meet.
meetings
Yeah.
of a conflict.
It's just dropping those off. Yeah.
I don't
So-
know what the concern is, but anyway.
So we need a motion to approve or I'll make a motion to approve the commissioners' meeting schedule, dropping off those extra 2 meetings a year, the third meeting,
The last meeting. of
the last meeting, yep, and keeping the schedule the same, alternating from evening to morning every 2 weeks.
I'll second your motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
All right.
All opposed?
So do you want to do the opening of Bridge 90? That was supposed to be added on.
And don't forget your redistricting ordinance.
Whatever it is, you want to do that one first?
Let's get the redistricting.
Let's do the redistricting.
Bill, could you come up?
See the right printing.
Which one's the?
Bill Reynolds,
Bill? A lot of work redoing this, wasn't it?
as yeah, volunteer hours. Yeah. Glad to help, glad to help.
Volunteer hours.
So, we're here, ready to get this thing passed now, right? In your opinion, too, John?
Yes, it needs to be passed by the end of the year. We had to move 2 precincts to meet the population guidelines. You're supposed to have your council and commissioners' districts as even in population as possible. Bill was a huge help doing the legal description. We even found stuff from the 90s where they'd used the wrong names for streets, and so there was a lot of corrections, but the main thing we were doing was moving Vermilion 1 from Council District 2 to Council District 1, and Fairview 1 from Council 3 to Council 2. Other than that, Bill cleaned up the descriptions of the commissioners' districts. There were some mistakes in the old documents on those, and generated a map. We probably ought to look at doing a better map at some point in the future, but it is adequate to meet the statutory requirements today, and we have to do it by the end of the year.
And we could take this description and give it to Mr. Mack, and he could incorporate it. We have all the legal.
And I would suggest if any of us are around in 2030, that this process starts on January the 2nd to get this done.
Well, originally, we wasn't going to do anything about it at all. We're just going to leave it alone. And then it comes out and said, well, if you don't do it, then you could be
You can be subject to a lawsuit. And
And Bill, the commissioners changes you made was, like up in district where I'm at in 3, it's actually supposed to be 1, and Britain is actually, it's supposed to go from north to south, not south to north.
We're gonna leave it as 3.
Oh, we're gonna leave it, okay.
We're changing the ordinance to reflect what the map and historical documents.
Oh, okay, I got
show,
you.
yeah. Otherwise, the records would be very disruptive.
Yeah, that's
We
what I can imagine.
We investigated and seen the wording, and it had District 1, and District 3, and District 3 and 1. So it was numbered backwards.
We just
And so-
renumbered the ordinance to reflect
Okay.
reality.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So we just left it the way it is. We don't want no more confusion.
Right. John, one item on the ordinance, section 6, do we include District 4 in the,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
District 4 is now on Exhibit A.
That was due to a shift in 2012, Clinton City changed some boundaries, which is also part of the boundary of the district, so okay, thank you.
Yep. Now, Bill was an enormous help on this.
Bill's a big asset.
Thank you, appreciate that.
The thing about this too, I want to say, you hear a lot about redistricting and people doing things politically, and there's nothing here. It's, both Democrat and Republican Party came together with both in agreement, both county chairs agreed, and there's no issue here. So just want to stop any rumors before they start, because it's been nice people working together, especially both parties, and come up with a good solution. I appreciate Bill and also John getting this done. So.
Do you want to read the ordinance? Or you want me to, or?
Go ahead.
You gonna read it by title, or you gonna read the whole thing?
I don't care, you guys want to read it by title, save me some.
That's up to
I don't
you.
think most people understand it.
I'll read it by title. County ordinance number 2021-19, redistricting Vermilion County. An ordinance redistricting in accordance with Indiana Code 36-2-3-4. And due to the nature that this needs approved by the end of the year, I would make a motion to approve County ordinance 2021-19.
Second your motion.
Discussion?
This has been available for people to review, right, at the auditor's office?
I think it's gonna be published in the paper, once you approve it. I think that's already scheduled, I think that is set up.
There's not really, what we did was what we had to do.
Well, you still have to give the public a chance to review and
I
comment,
think
though.
just the ordinance is gonna be published, but it does reflect what the changes that are made, so that people will be able to see it and realize what's involved. So you don't have to do the whole exhibit, because that's a legal description, so that doesn't have to be published, I don't think.
No, okay.
We can put it on our website. We can put it on the website.
Okay. Isn't there a requirement for this to be open for public comment?
No. I mean, there's not a penalty for violating it. We're not punishing anyone or fining anyone. We just had to move the precincts to keep the population balance between the council districts.
I understand what we were doing, I just thought it had to be open to the public for so long.
No, there's no statutory.
When the state redid redistricting for the Senate,
The
didn't
state's
not
gonna
have
look
to
at
do?
it too, and the
Is
state's
that a
gonna-
different,
Yeah, that would be a different statute. The ones on councils and commissions didn't have.
Don't have
any-
that?
any
Okay.
requirements.
And my understanding was that this was planned to be published in the paper. Eric, do you know about that?
The ordinance probably is.
The ordinance itself, yes.
Yeah. I doubt that that would require all of the supporting documents.
Attachments would not be required.
But to add, the statutes themselves don't give a lot of guidance. They just say that they should be reasonably balanced by population. It's when you delve into the case law that's developed over lawsuits, there's a mathematical formula that you have to look at how much deviation, because each precinct in each district doesn't have the exact same population. You just have to get it
Sure.
within certain
Within
parameters.
10%, wasn't
Yeah.
Well, that's a rule of thumb. That's not in the statute.
No.
So it's just based on case law, I guess.
Yeah,
You
it's
stay
just-
within 10%, then you're showing good intent.
And we got within 11, wasn't it?
Yeah, 10 point, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, under 11.
Okay, we got discussion, got a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
Good.
Thank you. I'm gonna do the opening of Bridge 90.
It's fine.
This is the only bid we received, Brenda, was White Construction. Sure, it's somewhere on the front page here. So the total for White Construction on Bridge 90 totals $394,000 for their total bid.
by agreement, take it under advisement?
Yes, I would be in agreement to take it under advisement.
It's fine.
Shine, I'll give that back to you soon. And then last is board appointments.
Yep.
Let me read those off. Alright, I'll go through and read all these off and name the person that the commissioners, or at least in a motion, we plan to appoint. My motion would be for, we'll start with Alcohol Beverage Board, Mindy Bush for the Alcohol Beverage Board. The Area Plan Commission, Barbara Phillips, which also, that seat will also sit on the Board of Zoning Appeals. We'll go to the E911 Board, Brent Lewis, Amanda Murphy, and Bob Spence. For the Board of Health, Kay Smith. For the Property Tax Adjustment Board of Appeals, because I cannot say that abbreviation correctly, it will be Pat Ritchie and Brad Ringwald for our two appointments. The Wabash River Corridor Commission, Larry Southard and Les Zimmerman.
They switched also in their,
Les will be the commissioner.
Okay, they switched, okay. Okay, so Les will be the one, and then Larry Southard will be the commissioner's alternate. Redevelopment Commission, the three will be Brandon Ruth, Bart Mooney, and Doc Sutherland, Orrin Doc Sutherland. And then the Economic Development Council, the president, Tim Yoakum, will be Greg Lucas now for that. That'd be my motion for the commissioner's appointments for 2022.
I'll second the motion.
discussion we've already had. Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Any other things we got today, is that it? Any new business?
Brandon, do we have anything else?
All good.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'm fine with that, second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Cookies, if anybody wants some cookies.
That's my